Hello everyone, Transport Enthusiast here, and in this video I will show you how you can remove or change the speed limiter of any bus or most buses in Omsi 2. So in order to change the speed limiter of a bus in Omsi 2, what you're going to want to do is go into your File Explorer and then navigate to your Omsi 2 directory. So for those of you who are not aware what that directory is, it's this PC, local disk C, program files times 86, Steam apps, common, Omsi 2. So once we are in the Omsi 2 folder, we'll go into your vehicles folder. Now for the purpose of today's tutorial, I will be showing you how to change the speed limiter in the London City Bus Enviro C400R and the Enviro 200 MMC by V3D. However, depending on which way the const file of the bus is scripted, changing the speed limiter will either be method A, which is the London City Bus 400R, or method B, which is the Enviro 200 MMC. That will be for most buses. Some buses will not fall under this method, but that's mainly HK buses. You want to go into the vehicle of your bus. So for the purpose of this tutorial, that is the London City Bus 400. Now what you want to do is, once you're in the bus folder, you want to go into your script. So once you're in the script folder, what you are looking for is the engine const file. Now one thing to bear in mind is that the engine const file will not actually be called engine const file, but well, okay, in this case it is, but for some buses it's not actually engine const file, but rather it is the name of the actual engine of the bus. So for example, the V3D Enviro 200 MMC is called Cummins const file, since the engine is a Cummins. So if you're not sure, or if you can't find the engine const file, it means it's the name of the bus engine. And if you don't know what the bus's engine's name is, then all you have to do is, if you go into your Omsi 2 and load the bus up, in the preview page it usually says what bus it is, or Google works as well. Open up your engine const file, which is a text document. So you can open this up with Notepad or something equivalent. So what you want to do is, once you're in the engine const file, is you want to find a line called speed gov. Once you found this line here, new curve followed by speed gov. In some buses, like the London City Bus and some of the HK models, you're going to have a PNT minus 101. You can ignore this. The part we're concerned with is this part here. So it's PNT 96.1 and PNT 97.0. So what this bit of code means here is, this means that once the bus reaches 96 kilometers per hour, the speed limiter is going to engage, and once the speed limiter engages, after the bus has reached 97 kilometers an hour, the bus will not accelerate anymore unless it's going downhill. So in order for us to change the speed limiter, all we have to do is change these two values. So we change this to the value where we want the speed limiter to hit in, and we change this to the value that we want the bus to be limited to. So say we want the bus to be limited to 80 kilometers an hour, we simply put 80 here, no, we put 79 here, so the speed limiter will kick in at 79, and then it will not accelerate past 80 kilometers an hour. If we want to remove the speed limiter, the simplest thing to do is just put a value that is higher than what the bus will actually reach without a speed limiter. So I'm just going to put on 149, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 150 for this. So in theory what this means is that once the bus reaches 150 kilometers an hour, it's not going to accelerate anymore. However, I don't think that the London City Bus will be able to reach that speed anywhere. So in essence, we have removed the speed limiter by setting the limiter to a higher speed than the bus is capable to achieve. So once you've done that, you have changed the speed limiter of the bus. So all you have to do now is click File and Save. And one thing to bear in mind is you are probably better off backing these files up just in case something goes wrong. So click File, Save. The thing about doing this is that if you have something like the Enviro 400 MMC, you're going to have buses with different engines. So for example, you have the ZF version, you have the Voi version, and you have the Scania version. So in that case, you want to make sure you're editing the right engine file, so that the bus whose speed limiter you've removed is actually the bus you want to use. One thing about changing the speed limiters is that on some buses that don't have a speed limiter, what actually happens is once the bus reaches the top speed, it won't accelerate anymore. And examples of that is, for example, the V3D Enviro 200 MMC. So that bus, if you move the speed limiter, would actually only go up to 82.9 kilometers an hour. So that's an extra 3 kilometers basically. And the reason for that is because the speed the bus will accelerate to is determined by the max throttle code that's in the engine script file as well. So for example, if you want to change the speed of a bus like the Enviro 200 MMC that has a max throttle set to an equivalent of about 83 kilometers an hour, then you're also going to have to add a bit of code into your max throttle file. So I'm going to show you now how you can increase the speed limiter of the Enviro 200 MMC from 80 kilometers an hour to 98, and the extra bit of code that you need to add in general to kind of basically increase the top speed of the bus. So I think with some cases, if the bus has a limiter, it doesn't really make sense to add in the code for the bus to go faster. It may not always actually have the code that will allow them to go faster, so sometimes you have to add that in yourself. So we're in the V3D Enviro 200 MMC folder. We're going to go into script, and then we're going to go into our engine const file. So in this case, it's not called engine const file, but rather Cummins. So the ISB 180, this is I think it's the 11.5 meter variant, and then this one, the ISB 210, is the 8.9 meter variant. So I've already changed this one, so I'm going to just do this one instead. So when you open this up, I've already changed the max speed curve. So as you can see, so in some const files it's called max speed, in some const files it's called speed curve. Doesn't really matter. It's the same process. 149 here, 150 here. So after 150 kilometers an hour, which the bus will never reach anyway, the bus will not accelerate any further unless it's downhill. So now what we're going to go to is the engine max throttle, and what you're going to find here is that once the throttle reaches 2110, the throttle will stop accelerating. So this basically means that this value here is equivalent to about 82.9 kilometers an hour. So in order to make our Enviro 200 MMC 8.9 meter version go faster, we actually need to add 2 more pieces of code. We need to add 2 more points here that will enable it to go that extra speed. So those 2 points for the Enviro 200 MMC are 2300, so we're going to change that to 2300 for the top value, and then 600 for the bottom value. No, sorry, 600. And then we're going to copy this, Control C, we're going to enter again, Control V, paste. And then what we're going to do is we're going to enter our second value, which is 2700, and then we're going to put in a 0. And this will allow our bus to reach a maximum speed of 98 kilometers an hour. Now if you want to increase the speed even further, you're going to have to add in values that will allow you to reach that speed. Now I'm not exactly sure what the values for other buses would be, and that can probably be estimated or found out from online or just from looking at the const file of a faster bus in Omsi 2. So for example, the Mercedes-Benz 412D, it's a minibus that has a top speed of about 140 kilometers an hour, so that might be a good place to check the points of the max throttle. So again, when you're doing this, make sure you've backed up your 2 const files. I have already done that, but it's recommended to do that, and I think now the other thing to make sure when you're doing these files is that the spaces are correct and that these are correct. So if anything's missing, like one of these brackets is missing, it's going to basically it's going to mess up your bus, and if there's no spaces in between, that's also going to mess up your bus. And basically all we have to do now is click file and save, so it's literally not even 1 minute's worth. Then we just close this up, and now what you're going to notice is once you load up Omsi 2, your speed limiters will be completely removed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause this recording, I'm going to load up Omsi 2, and then I'm going to show you how the speed of our 2 buses has increased. So bear with me, and I'll see you again shortly.